The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett was published in 1989, and this is an absolutely great historical fiction novel. This is well beloved, especially I think worldwide. It sold I think it went over 100 million copies sold worldwide, and for good reason too. This is an absolutely fantastic book. And this review, I'm very delighted to be giving this review. Don't forget to like and subscribe and tell us what you think in the comments. My feelings about this book, this absolutely massive 1,100 page book is, you know what it is with the big books, is that I do have a lot of problems with them, especially the Brandon Sanderson ones, The Way of Kings, for example. I'm even reading The Words of Radiance right now, and it's taking me forever to get through it. Some of the big books are big for no reason, quite frankly. And a lot of the times, even though there is, grand, epic world building, it still doesn't feel like a book to really sit within. And it's usually not like a pleasant read. That is not the case with The Pillars of the Earth. This is a fantastic book. It took me a while to read it, not because the page count was so long, but because I loved just being in this world, sitting within it, and just having the story unravel. It was absolutely beautiful. And I have to give all shouts to Ken Follett. This is beloved for a reason. Every historical fiction top 10 pretty much has this book. So it's great. And another thing with large books as well is that, at times, and maybe not even with large books, just with books in general, sometimes it gets to certain points in books where you're kind of looking at it and you're like, when is it going to end? How many pages do I have left? All that kind of thing. And I never did this with this book. That's how good it is. This book also has a beautiful current of British charm that just does wonders for this book. It is absolutely fantastic. So what is the premise of this? The premise is kind of funny because when you hear it from other people, they'll talk about just, the fact that we're building a cathedral, and that's part of it, but it's not all of it. This book spans over 60 years if you include a prologue, and it's broken up into 6 parts. The main 6 parts span about just under 40 years. And we're set in 12th century England during a period of civil war, political and religious instability, and the novel follows the intertwined lives of numerous characters that come to this village called Kingsbridge to really sort of kind of live their lives and just, do something meaningful. And, the characters of we've got builders, nobility, the clergy, commoners, and it's just fantastic. The cathedral building is the main focus of the book. It's like the main attraction in a town or city. It's everything revolves around it. Everything thrives around it, And in this book, we also get lifelong pettiness and, just battles, personal ambition, love, betrayal, and just numerous power struggles unfold in this book. Plus a lot of despair and just a lot of talk about the clergy and God and whatnot. So without it being preachy or anything like that. And that kind of moves me on to the themes. So that's the book. We follow numerous characters, numerous POVs as we're building this cathedral. And it's quite literary in the sense that we're following the characters and whatnot. Moving on to the themes. We get a lot of political intrigue, nobility power struggles, religious power struggles, a lot of despair, quite a lot of despair, God's will, faith, and more. The political intrigue it doesn't super dominate the story. Nothing really dominates the story in terms of the different themes, different characters. We're spread out. We've seen a lot of POVs, and so it adds a nice balance to the story, which I greatly appreciated. The religious sort of power struggles and whatnot were interesting to read about, especially because how it interacts with commoners and the nobility, because, set in this time, the religious were still very powerful. A monk could literally go right up to a knight's face and be like, yo, you are on the way to doing something crazy that will land you in hell, and the knight will get shook, even though the knight's the one with a sword and could easily kill the monk. So because we're in that kind of time where men of God had such power, it does make for interesting narratives in this book. In terms of characters, there is a lot, and just the goodness of these characters, the pettiness of the villains, the troubles of these characters were great. All the characters were memorable, and the long-term character arcs were fantastic, and the payoff is just it's nuts. There's quite a bit of violence in this. There is some sexual content that might be disturbing for others, so you kind of know the things people have to overcome. It's kind of related to that. There's a lot of humbling in this book. People fall off, people lose their power, regain their power, and all the characters are fantastic. Really, they are truly great. Onto the prose of this book. It is a fairly easy read, which I am happy about, because this was my first historical fiction book that I've ever read. So I'm delighted that it was an easy read. Anyone could pick this up. I think there's a good reason why this has sold so many copies. It's also a very steadily paced and engaging book. The fact that Ken Follett could write 1,100 pages and it not be boring is absolutely fantastic. There's not really any boring spots within this, and that just takes some doing. So you just gotta respect that. The time jumps were done well in this book. Like I said, we span over about 60 years, and time jumps are hard to do. I've had a few books in the past that I've done time jumps and not done it well. The most recent that comes to mind is Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee, which was the last book in the Greenbone Saga trilogy. I hated the time jumps in that book. It was not done well, and kind of killed what would have been a 5-star book. So time jumps, again, so most of the time they work for me, but you've got the narrative and just the character arcs and everything, the way that gets resolved or prolonged, just has to be on point. And in this book, it was fantastic. Ken Follett, perfectly timed those, nearly perfectly timed the time jumps, but they were done pretty well. I didn't think I'd also be so interested and invested in a book of this nature. I was very, very pleasantly surprised. It's, like I said, it's my first historical fiction book, and now I'm gonna pick up the rest of the books in this series. I'm gonna probably buy the set. There's a beautiful 4-book set, even though there's 5 books now. There's a 4-book set that came out, I think, a year or 2 ago that just looks beautiful. I'll put a picture up that I really want to get. So I probably, this version of this was secondhand, it was only a few quid, but this sort of format won't be the one that I'll have on my bookshelf going forward, because I now want to read the rest of the series, and I really just enjoy Ken Follett's writing that much. It's that even though it's the series, the different books are all set in different periods, and don't have any big connections to each other, they're all pretty much standalones. I trust Ken Follett so much. So yeah, his writing style is great, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. He made the book epic, immersive, and extremely satisfying. Like I said before, there's a beautiful balance of personal drama and historical forces in this. Again, the balance was just absolute perfection. I really understand why people love this book. But onto the cons, because I forgot to mention, I gave this 4.5 stars. Should have said that at the start. I gave this 4.5 stars because I really like it. I don't love it, but I do really like it, which is like a 4.5 star. It came to a point in this book where I was like, okay, this is gonna be rated highly, and I was like, is it quite a 5-star for me? And it wasn't. And some of the cons were, some of the characters at times, their choices, again, this kind of relates into the time jumps a bit, but it seems as though no one grieves properly in this book. There's a lot of death and a lot of meaningful deaths that felt like they should have been grieved a lot more, and we should have seen the characters really go through that process. So that seemed a bit weird. We get small time jumps between the different parts, but I felt like some of the personal desires were unrealistically put on hold for years, which was a bit strange. But again, it's not like a super big thing, but there are things going on where I was like, okay, we're gonna really get to it, mainly in the sort of like romantic side of things. But yeah, it is what it is. And sort of relating to that is some of the natural conversations and actions that should happen between characters don't. Between potential lovers, between siblings, just to really get a better understanding of where people sit with each other. Those didn't happen. It was a bit strange at times, but it is what it is. So those are the cons. And to be honest, they're all very little, very minor cons, which just goes to show how great this book is. And so I highly recommend this. I can't wait to read the other books that Ken Follett has written. I actually have on my TBR one of his other books that's outside of this series. I will put the book up on the screen because I can't remember its name, but I think I have one or two other books on my TBR that are by Ken Follett. So I'm really looking forward to getting to them, and I will look for them now that I know how he writes and everything. They have been moved up my TBR. So if I find them out in the wild, or I might just purchase them outright, that I'll definitely be doing that. But anyway, if you've read it, let me know what you think in the comments, and I definitely recommend this book. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.